And we back in this thing like we left something. Welcome back to this week's episode of I Got a Story to Tell. Y'all know how we do. Before we get started, I always got to give somebody their flowers. And this week, I'm giving flowers to my boy, my brother, Ryan Reynolds. Ren, I love you, boy. From when you and I first met, working together, how our bond just kept growing, to talking, to when I moved and left Ohio, to us still visiting with each other, to us merging our families and having our families interact and having a good time, to those phone calls where you asking my opinion and me calling asking your opinion on things. I appreciate you and I love you, brother. To see the husband and father you've become is amazing. Keep doing what you're doing, brother. Keep going. Keep being great. And with that being said, y'all, I got a story to tell. Let's go. So, this story takes place in the year of our Lord, 2000. That's a 2 and 3 zeros after the 2, right? I'm in college. I am a newly initiated member into the noble clan known as Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. So life is good at this point. I'm living in an apartment complex called Emerald Lakes in Beaver Creek, Ohio. On this Thursday in April, I'm getting ready to go to class. So I get dressed, I make my way to campus, go to my first class, get out of my class, and I run into my line brother, my ace, my saying, Steve. Shout out my ace, Steve. Love you, boy. I see Steve. Now let me give y'all a description of Steve. Steve is a little older than us on my line. Steve had gone into the Air Force before he came to college. So he's a little older. And like most Air Force people, he, organized, structured, keeps an immaculately clean apartment. But Steve likes to kick it too. Steve is a real beige nigga, right? Like damn near albino. Cool dude. Steve's go-to drink when it's time to kick it, when he's pre-gaming, Steve's going to get him 3 tall boys. That's 22 ounces of Steel Reserve 211. Oh, he's going to get that Steel Reserve. He's going to scarf him down and it's party time. So anyway, I run into Steve that day. Steve says, "Hey, Sands, I'm trying to declutter my apartment. I have a bunch of colognes I need you to come down there and go through and see if you want any because I'm getting rid of them." Say, nigga, say no more. So I go to Steve's crib. He lives in an apartment complex called The Village. Go there, get a bunch of colognes, and I'm leaving. I'm walking out, and who do I run into? My brother, DC. Now, I introduced y'all to DC in an earlier episode entitled Kappas Will Drive You to Drink. And in that episode, DC got me super drunk. If you get a chance, go back and check it out if you haven't already. Drunk to the point that I cursed my mother and ended up in rehab. So I run into DC on this day. DC is driving his gold Chevy Corsica. It was a piece of shit. Oh, the car was terrible. But that gold Corsica got us many of places, different campuses in different cities. It took us from to and fro. So I see DC and we start talking, and DC says, "Hey, I'm going to have a party tonight to celebrate my 1-year anniversary of being in the bond of Kappa Alpha Psi." I said, "Oh, okay, dope." So he says, "I'll hit you up later with the details." I said, "Say no more." Now, he putters off in the gold Corsica. Now, let me describe this Corsica. This gold Corsica was terrible. It was hard as hell to get it started. So there are a couple funny stories about the Gold Corsica. One situation that maybe I'll go into depth about later on down the road was one time we got the world famous poet, Dr. Nikki Giovanni, well, DC and a couple other students, I should say, got her to come to our campus. She came to our campus to speak, read some of her work, answer some questions. DC was responsible for picking her up from the airport, bringing her to campus, and dropping her off at the Holiday Inn across the street from campus. So the day comes, he picks her up in the Corsica, brings her to campus. She does what she does. She reads, answers some questions, and it's time to take her to the hotel. DC says, "Hey, Mike, hey, ride with me to drop her off." I said, "All right, bet." Her and I walk out of the multipurpose room outside of the student union, and we're standing right there in front. He runs off, and this is a stressful moment because the Corsica had a whole lot of rattle, rattle, thunder, clatter, boom, boom, boom to it when it was time to start it up. Oh, it took some time to get that thing going. So DC runs off and he's like, "God, I hope I can get this shit going." The ancestors were with us that day because the car started up first try. Boom. He putters it around the parking lot, drives it up. We get in. Dr. Giovanni gets in the front seat. I get in the back seat. We take her to the Holiday Inn across the street. DC and I roll off and we're laughing about it. Another time, DC and I were chilling in the parking lot of my apartment. It was late. DC had a bottle of wine. Where he got this bottle of wine from, I don't know. He and I said, "Okay, well, let's scarf it down real quick. Let's drink it real quick." But not taking into account, we don't have anything to open this wine bottle. So what does DC do? Take his keys out of the gold Chevy Corsica, jams the cork down in the bottle, and he and I go ahead and drink a bottle of cork-filled wine. So that's the Corsica. Now back to the story. DC rides off after telling me that he's going to have a party to celebrate his year anniversary in the Bond of Kappa. Says he'll call me later with the details. I go back to my apartment later that day. My mom and I are on the phone, talking, laughing. Now at this time, my mom, being in the church, she's in the church. I'm a Muslim. But her and I would have conversations, revolving around beliefs and religion and things like that. That's just how our relationship was. So that day we're talking, we're roasting on each other's religion, but it's all in good fun, right? Things get take a little turn. We start talking a little bit more serious. And she asked me, she says, "Michael, do you ever think you'll come back to the church?" And I said, "Well, Mom, as I stand right now, no. But, you never know what happens down the road. But no, I wouldn't." She was like, "Well, Jesus misses you and he'd love to have you back in the church. So whenever you get a chance, just think about talking to Jesus." And, she's giving me the whole thing, right? And she always ended it with, "Jesus misses you." So I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." Her and I get off the phone and DC calls me. DC says, "Nigga, the party's going down tonight." I said, "Well, shit, where's it going down?" He says, "Hey, gonna have it at the clubhouse at this apartment complex called the Village of Stone Falls, which is in Beaver Creek. And from my apartment, that's about a 3-minute drive, if that." So I'm like, cool. Time goes on and I start pre-gaming at the crib, have a few drinks, maybe about 4 or 5 drinks, get dressed on a few squirts of Perry Ellis 360, which at the time and still to this day you can find at your local Walgreens, Marshall, Ross, TJ Maxx, Burlington, 5 and Dime, Dollar Tree. I mean, it ain't gonna last long. It's gonna smell good for about 2 seconds, but it ain't gonna last long, right? So that was one of the bottles I had gotten from my San Steve. So I'm like, "Ooh, I'm gonna kill him tonight with a new fragrance." So I spray it on. I leave out. I get to the party. Walk into the clubhouse where this party is being held. Niggas have moved all the furniture out of the main area, and that's nothing but a big room/dance floor. It's packed. Oh, it's packed. I said, ooh wee. Now, again, this is Thursday. DC, Mac, and myself are supposed to be going up to Miami University. Shout out everybody in Oxford, Ohio at Miami. All the noops at KD, Kappa Delta chapter. We're supposed to be going up there the next day. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I ain't going to go too hard tonight because I need to pace myself because I'm going to be doing some serious kicking it this weekend. I walk in the party. Everybody's having a great time. Like I said, the main area, they've moved all the furniture out, is straight in front of you. To the left, there's a kitchen. So I bust a left. I'm like, let me see who in the kitchen. Go in the kitchen. All my people are there. I see DC. I see Mac. I see a little bit of everybody. Standing to the left of me, though, on the wall is my guy Pitts. Shout out my boy Pitts. My frat brother Pitts. He's my distant sans. So, Pitts is over there standing on the wall. Pitts has on a pair of khakis, some like boat shoes, a white polo, and he's chilling. Everybody has a cup in their hand pretty much. And so, what are they drinking? Like most college students around that time, without a lot of money, we drank Harry Buffalo. Now, on your campus, you may have called it something different. You might have called it hooch, garbage can punch, whatever, but same difference. It's a bunch of juice, a bunch of cheap liquor, and fruit. And you put it in one big batch, let it sit, marinate, and you get hammered, right? So, that's what's in the building. Everybody's drinking Harry Buffalo. I get me a cup. I'm standing there talking, we shooting the shit, everybody laughing, ha ha, he. I look over to the left and Pitts, like I said, is on the wall. Pitts, I see his feet slide. And I'm like, oh shit. To myself, I'm like, oh shit, he about to fall. But he doesn't fall, so I'm like, oh, he caught himself. Oh no, he ain't caught himself. Because right after that, his knees buckle a little bit. I'm like, oh shit. Then his ass gumped down a little bit. I'm like, oh shit. And his back starts sliding down the wall. And I hear my sans, Max, say, ooh, ooh. Now, let me stop the story right here. For some reason, my crew, whenever somebody's falling or about to fall or has already fallen, we always say, ooh, ooh. I don't know why we do it, where it comes from, whatever. My daughter was about to fall the other day in the hall, and she's tripping, trying to get her balance. I didn't go to save my baby girl. I didn't go put my arms out. First thing comes to my mind, ooh, ooh. And it's to the point now my son even says it. So I hear Mac, as Pitts is falling, say, ooh, ooh. Now I think I'm tripping though, because the nigga's falling in slow motion. And I look at Pitts' face. His expression's not changing. Like, you know, most people when they're in a situation like that, their eyes get big. Oh no, Pitt's eyes was just looking regular. And he was steadily holding that cup. And I'm like, damn, this nigga's really about to fall. And he finally falls, right? But the nigga's cup, he has a hold on this cup. It's not until his ass hits the floor and the juice just falls on his shirt. Now, I think I'm tripping because okay, I'm thinking I'm super drunk at this point. Because in my mind, I'm like, I've never seen anybody fall in slow motion. And I've never seen anybody fall in sections. First was the feet. Then the knees buckle. Then the ass gump down. Then the backslide. Then he finally hits the ground. Then the cup reacts by falling over onto him. So I'm like, I'm tripping. It's not till later down the road that I hear in conversation Mac and I having when he was like, hey, you remember that nigga Pitts fell in sections in slow motion? I was like, oh, I thought I was tripping. But it really happened that way, right? Now, Pitts is a hilarious guy. He don't get too hype. He don't get too low. He's real monotone, in the middle. And Pitts says some of the craziest shit to people who don't know him, right? They don't understand, things he said. Now, once you're around him a while, you get what he's saying. Like, for example, if you're hanging around Pitts and Pitts has on something like, say it's very fashion forward in his eyes, and niggas ain't feeling it, and somebody say they ain't feeling it, Pitts will have a saying like, oh, niggas mad because I'm in a helicopter. Like, that's his way of saying I'm on another level, right? So shit like that, you'd be like, wow, he's from Dallas. Nigga talks like monotone, slow, great human being. So he falls, back to the story. He falls in sections, right? We're laughing uncontrollably. We are laughing uncontrollably. So finally, after that whole episode, I leave out the kitchen. I go like in the main area where everybody's dancing. I've had a few more drinks at this point, and I'm drunk. I want to dance because the music's wanging, right? I want to dance, but I can't like piece it together to start dancing. Now, I ain't a nigga that's going to hit you with a bunch of moves. I'm not going to be out there like Turbo and Ozone and all that shit, right? I'm a two-step you to death. Same spot, stay on beat, two-step. That's it. That's all I got for you. Two-step shorty. So I decide, hey, I need to go piss. So I go outside because I can't find the bathroom inside. I go outside and there's some bushes in front. So I start peeing in the bushes. Now, I'm so drunk, I think I'm tripping because a young lady dives over into the bushes while I'm pissing. But it doesn't stop me from peeing, right? So I'm tripping. I'm like, I know she ain't just diving these bushes. I chalk it up as I'm drunk, I'm tripping, ain't nobody diving these bushes. Finish peeing, go back inside. Finish the night kicking it. At this point, it's time to leave. I'm about probably, I'm going to say 5 drinks past being drunk. I'm overly faded. Again, DC and alcohol, right? So DC's like, hey, I'm going to drop you off at the crib, Mike. I say, cool. I go to get in the Corsica. I open the passenger door. I'm sitting in the Corsica with my feet out the side because DC has started talking to some young lady. I look at those bushes that I pissed in. Y'all, all of a sudden, the young lady that I thought I saw comes up out them bushes out of nowhere like the monster that came out the sewer on the Thriller video. Y'all remember how the nigga pushed up out the sewer, right? That's how she came up like, rrr. She like came up out them shits, right? And I'm like, oh, I wasn't tripping. She walks out the bushes, back into the party, and she's back in kick it mode. I said, oh my God, wild shit's going on. So at this point, my mind is messing with me. I'm like, oh shit, somebody might have slipped something in that shit, right? In that hairy buffalo. I start telling myself like, man, my mama was right. I need to get back into the church, man, because I'm out here just wilding, man. I'm out here getting drunk. People coming up out of bushes. I am tripping. So this is on my mind, right? DC finally, I guess he sets up his play for the evening. So he's like, all right, I'm about to go drop you off. That 3-minute ride, DC's like, man, I'm happy we kicked it, had a great time, all this shit. All I can think about is conversation with my mother, me being on some drunk shit, and the Thriller monster coming up out the bushes, right? So I'm like, man, I need to get my life right, man. I'm tripping. It got me questioning all type of shit. DC drops me off at the apartment. I walk up the stairs, go in the apartment. I sit on the foot of my bed. I'm like, man, I'm going to lay back and I'm going to pray, right? This is what I say. So I lay back on the bed. I'm looking up at the ceiling. First thing I say, dear God, right after I say, dear God, right? Room starts spinning crazy. So I sit up. I'm like, oh shit. So I'm like, man, I got to go in this bathroom. So I go in the bathroom. On my counter in the bathroom was a clock radio that I always kept on because I would listen to music in the shower. To this day, I listen to music in the shower, right? So the radio station that I have on has Delilah on it. Now, I don't know if y'all know who Delilah is. Delilah is this old white woman who she's a radio host. She's been around for years. People like write in sad shit like, my boyfriend dumped me. Can you play a song for me? And Delilah put a song on for him. So I'm down in front of the toilet at this point. I'm throwing up. Delilah's talking. I'm like, shit, I want her to shut up, but I can't reach up there and like turn it off. All of a sudden, nigga El DeBarge starts singing, right? Love me in a special way. Y'all know that song, right? So I'm like, oh shit. Now, I know y'all saying, nigga, why is this a big deal? Listen, hear me out. As a kid, growing up in the church and just throughout life, I would always see, pictures of Jesus, white dude, with the beard, the mustache, with the mullet, right? So I'm like, man, I know this nigga don't look like this, right? So my entire life, that's what I'm thinking. I always was like, he come from a different region of the world, so he gotta have some tint to him, right? In my mind, I always thought Jesus looked like El DeBarge, right? Like a Puerto Rican looking nigga, right? So I'm sitting there throwing up. El DeBarge comes on. So I'm like, oh shit, this is a sign. Now, I always thought, like I said, that Jesus looked like a Puerto Rican nigga. But, stories in the Bible, he had a little goon to him too. So I really thought he looked like El DeBarge. Because, El DeBarge from Detroit. Detroit niggas be on some wild shit. Y'all done watch BMF. Lamar with the wave cap. Lamar Wild Boy, right? Detroit niggas is wild. So I'm like, Jesus gotta be El DeBarge. A Puerto Rican nigga with baby hair. Everybody like DeBarge. But he a wild guy from the D. So I'm like, this is a sign. So I'm sitting there, El DeBarge saying, I'm like, man, I got some shit to think about. So I start dozing off in the bathroom, fall asleep, finally get up, go get in the bed. Next morning, DC calls me. I'm like, I answer the phone, head in the pillow, hungover. I'm like, hello. He like, nigga, you up? I'm like, nah, man. He like, hey, what time we getting on the road? I'm like, man, fuck going on the road, man. I ain't going nowhere with you, yada, yada, yada. DC respond, man, you acting like a bitch. So he going off on me. I'm like, man, call me back. He calls me back later. Finally, I mustered up some energy. All right, I'm gonna go. We go. We go up to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio. We kick it. We have a great time. Oh, we have a good time. It's now time the next day to go home. We get in the Corsica. It start up. I always, before we got on the road, I would say a prayer to myself in my head, that we would get there, safe and all that, right? So I'm sitting there in the Corsica, looking out the window, saying a silent prayer to myself, to my Lord and Savior, El DeBarge, right? Dear Jesus, El DeBarge, get us there safe. Don't let nothing happen to us. Keep us safe on the road. We driving. DC and I, we're talking, having a little conversation back and forth or whatever. We almost get back to campus. We stop. Because DC like, man, let me get some gas before I run out. We go in, I need to hydrate and get some water. Go get my water. Going to pay for it. Everything is heavy on my mind. God and religion and me getting my shit together, all this, right? And I'm like, man, I just need a sign. Because, I'm one of them niggas, I don't believe fat meat greasy, right? I'm always looking for a sign. You got to show me something else. You got to show me something else so I can believe it. And I'm thinking to myself, as I'm putting this water on the counter to pay for it, I hear the music over top. They give you little elevator music and all that shit. What comes on? The nigga El DeBarge. I said, oh shit, to myself. That's what I say. I said, man, my mother may be on to something. Like Jesus might be missing me. And I start thinking for a minute like, man, I might have to rock with the church again. Thinking, pay for it. Getting to Corsica, me and DC riding. Finally get home. Back to the apartment. Sit down for a minute. Collecting my thoughts. What I got to do. What I need to do. What I got going on this upcoming week. Go in my room. Sit down on the foot of my bed. My music is on in the bathroom, right? On that radio that I never turn off. Decide I'm going to empty out my bag that I had taken with me when we went to Miami, right? Put my shit in the laundry room. I'm about to wash stuff I had taken. Throw it in the laundry room. Come out. Sit down on the couch. And I'm sitting there. And I looked down on my table. And on my table was a copy of Message to the Black Man that I had. So I'm looking at it, pick it up, go in my room, put it on my dresser, sitting there collecting my thoughts. Lay back on my bed, pass out, wake up, and it hit me. And it hit me right then.